So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Solihull Chamber webinar this morning. Just a quick introduction. My name's Samantha Frampton. I look after Solihull Chamber, and I'm one of the membership executives. Today's webinar, as it says on the screen, is all around digital marketing and are your channels working for you? And hosting the webinar and speaking on the webinar today is James Eden-Muir. He's from Astute Media and he's the Digital Account Director. And before I hand over to James, just quickly take you through a couple of slides and today's agenda for you. There we go. So as I said, quick welcome from myself. We'll have the presentation from James, and then once James has finished his presentation, we'll open up the floor for any questions. And as it says there, if you could put your questions in the chat box on the side, that'd be great, and then we'll feed them through to James as and when towards the end. Just a quick overview, Solihull Chamber and Greater Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, and as you can see, as well as providing a number of live webinars that have been taking place throughout the month of May, we're also ensuring that now more than ever, our members are still here, and we're still here for our members with help and support. And that is easily accessible for all the members. So as you can see on that slide there, we just sort of an overview that we're still ensuring that the members are connecting, they're still being supported and their businesses are being supported, and obviously helping grow awareness of what's going on through Chamber daily articles, newsletters, the Chamber chat hours, and obviously all the COVID information and all the content that's being shared on the Greater Birmingham website. And then just finally, just some my email address on there for you if you need to get hold of me with regard for Solihull Chamber and our Keep Business Moving, which was the initiative launched at the beginning of all of this to ensure that our businesses can share, still collaborate and share their stories with us on how they've adapted to this unprecedented time that we're all going through. I will bring back this slide at the end when we've finished our Q&A, but just a quick note on some upcoming webinars that we've got taking place within Solihull Chamber is the HS2 webinar, giving us an update on the interchange station and also some supply chain opportunities, and that's on Tuesday the 19th of May. And then on Thursday the 21st of May, we've got John Callaghan, who is the principal of Solihull College and University Centre, and he'll be along with Rosa and Nadia from the college talking about what further education looks like for them from September 2020, as obviously we've all seen in the news today. Some of our children will be going back, or their term will start then, rather than during the summer holidays or whenever the dates and times that are being sort of banded around at the moment. So if anybody's got any information at the end or any questions regarding membership or your membership with the Chamber, please drop me an email quickly there, sframpton@solihull-chamber.com. That's it from me now. Sorry if I've waffled on. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of what we're offering with the Chamber. I'd like to now to hand over to James, who will take over and host the webinar session. Thanks, James. Over to you.
Thank you, Samantha, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get jump straight in. So basically what we're going to look at today is digital channels and are your channels working for you and how to understand that. So first of all, I'm just going to show you a few figures and mention these figures for you and let you have a look at these and let them sink in over the course of the presentation. So 3.8 million per minute, 5.6 billion a day, and 2 trillion per year. Now, I won't tell you what they are, you might be able to guess, but I guarantee that these numbers affect you and your life and your businesses. But we'll come back to them later. So what are we going to cover today? What we're going to look at, first of all, we're going to give digital marketing a context. We're going to look at why it's important, then move on to understand how we can harness it, and then also look at how do we know it's working, and that's the main crux of it, and how to understand it. So what does digital marketing actually mean? We see it in sort of job titles, digital marketing manager, marketing directors, digital marketing directors, but what do they actually do, or what is it that they're there to do? And if we're looking for a definition in the context of marketing, digital is technology which allows data to be stored, and you can share that through online channels. And for most of you, the most relevant data that we're storing will be your brand information. That might be products, it might be services, it could be all of these things, but that's the data that we're talking about there. And it's the key about digital marketing is sharing that information in the right place at the right time to the right people. And it's results that's delivered by this technology that should determine how much money we put back into it. So, for example, if we've got a PPC campaign and we're spending £1,000 on that a month, and it's only bringing us 25 pence of revenue, is there any need for it? Is there any point in it? But if we're spending £1,000 on PPC and it's generating £10,000 of revenue, then we need to probably carry on with that or improve it. So as a definition, that's great, but what does it actually mean in practice? And it's about your company presence, but in particular, it's about your online company presence. And it's things such as your website. It could be a trade-only ordering platform that you have. It's all of your social media pages. So all in conjunction with perhaps search engine marketing, PPC, other online advertising, could be social media marketing or paid social media marketing. But the key is, because of how usage is monitored, it means that we can track and trace it, so we can see what's happening and understand and really get a return on our investment, or at least understand if there's a return on the investment there. And to be successful, one of the things is we must have integration. Our digital marketing must integrate with all our other business strategies and our overall marketing strategies. So there's no point in having a social media team or doing social media and saying, right, we need to be on Facebook, let's go and do it. What are we doing? It needs to be integrated, and it needs to integrate with our traditional media as well, such as print, TV, direct mail, all these different offline things that you do as well. So integration is key. And why is digital marketing important? Well, when I wrote this was first written, and I would stand up in a room and say, how many people here have, when's the last time you were on the internet? Now, at the moment, we're all on it. We're on it constantly, especially now, and we're at home. But this aside, when was the last time you looked online at something? And I would probably say it's probably between a minute and 10 minutes ago. Wouldn't surprise me, unless you're driving, which most of us aren't at the minute anyway. But it's the internet's massive convenience, and it's a convenience to be able to access information immediately. And it means that all of these search engines are so busy, and Google's the obvious one, but there are others. And with that information being available to everybody, we have to make sure that we're part of that. So it's the fact that consumers are using the internet all of the time. And with everybody using the internet, it's no surprise that £1 in every 5 is spent online. Now, these figures might have changed recently, because that actually has doubled between 2013 and 2018. So it gives you an idea of just how much money is getting spent online. And a lot of us do research before we go out and purchase. 70% purchase, people search online before going into store. So that could be, it tends to be the sort of slightly larger items, such as cars and things like that. People look online and do the research, then they'll go in and try something. And then the other 30% probably do it the other way around as well. So that might be something like a television. You might go in, see how it works, see how it looks, see how it sounds, and then you go home and see if you can find it cheaper anywhere else. So there's a massive potential for online. So the next part is, how do we harness it? Well, we need to organise ourselves. We need organising, and we need that dreaded word, strategy. Now everybody panics. It's how do we put a strategy together? What do we do? It's so complicated. But let's try and just break it down a little bit. Let's make it and try and simplify it all. So the first thing we need to do is take stock, see where we are, then understand and target, plan, do it, measure, and go back and start again. But not actually start again, but So it's about understanding where you are, understand what we are about and who we're trying to target, plan what we're going to do it, measure it, feed those measurements back in, and change and alter and tweak things. So let's have a look at, we'll go through those sort of stages and have a little overview of it. So first of all, where are we now? We take stock. So this is about a situation analysis, and it's understanding about our brand, about our products, about our values, understand what we're trying to communicate, and understand what those communication goals are as well. And within that, we understand what we're trying to say and where we're trying to say it and who we're trying to say it to. A good idea here is to do a SWOT analysis. Do one of the business, look at the strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's a good thing to be able to do from, you can do that sort of desk-based. You don't have to be out interviewing people in the streets and things, but it's all about understanding who you are as a company and what your strengths are, and looking at those threats, making sure you can turn them into opportunities, that kind of thing. Doing this, we understand our current performance as well. So we might understand our sales, our profitability. It might be donation levels if you're a charity, for example. But it's all about understanding those things through a digital channel, through the digital channels. And so we can then start to benchmark, and we can have a look at perhaps the analytics of the website, the analytics of social media, email marketing, just understand where we are. And one good way of doing that is a digital marketing audit. Excuse me. So doing a digital marketing audit, you understand the business effectiveness from a financial or commercial contribution from the digital channels. And this could be online leads, it could be sales, it could be offline influence sales. And a good example of that could be telephone calls. For maybe, we look at, we might have PPC campaigns going on, and they drive through to the website, but then somebody picks up the phone and calls, and that's now offline. People are calling you, so measuring those kind of things. So we're talking about the effectiveness of all those, of the digital activities in those kind of areas: leads, sales, customer retention. And why do we need to understand that? Well, if we don't understand where we are at the minute, then how do we know that things are working? And we need to be able to compare those results later on down the line once we've put our plans into action. So where do we want to be? And this is our understanding and target. And the first thing here to talk about is setting goals. Now, we can't measure success without goals. The fact holds true in no matter what we do in our personal life. If it's financial success or house buying or whatever, number of friends, I don't know. But unless we set a goal, we can't tell if we're successful or not. We just end up being limited to sort of two basic analysis of it. One is, it seems to be working, looks okay, yeah. Or it doesn't look like it's working. Probably depends if you're a half glass, half full person. Is it working? Maybe. So we need to set goals. And ideally speaking, and you may have come across this already, we should be looking at setting what's called SMART goals. And I'll just quickly run through those. Now, SMART goal is basically, it needs to be specific. So is what we're setting sufficiently detailed to be measurable in the real world? So it's got to be specific. It has to be measurable. So can we put a quantitative or qualitative attribute to it and say, yes, we've done 50 more, or more people have got a better, more positive view of the brand. It's got to be actionable. So can we actually do something to reach that goal? Can we change behavior in staff, for example? Can we change behavior to help them improve their performance? Or, there's got to be, there's got to be something to do with that goal. and it's got to be relevant. There's no point in setting a goal that isn't relevant to the business or what you're trying to achieve as a business. And also, it's got to be time bound. So can objectives be set for different time periods as targets to review against, basically? So, there's no point in saying we're going to increase sales by 100 units. 100 units in the year, in the week. There's got to be something that sets that precedent, sets that target. So we know that the goals have got to be these SMART goals, but where are we, what are we trying to do? Where should we base this on? What should we base these goals on? And within the digital world, there's sort of 5 kind of areas where you can look at how digital can work for you. Because the challenge seems to be, or tends to be, that understanding what role digital marketing can play and where it can help you. So take you through a few examples now. So, and you might have come across this as the 5 S's theory and things like this, but the first thing is sell. So digital marketing can help you sell. Now that could be direct online sales. It could be sales offline influenced by online activities. So, we might want to increase online sales by 10% in a week. That might be part of a SMART goal. Another way that digital can help is in a serve. So it can add value by giving customers extra benefits online. So an example here might be flat pack furniture. If you sell flat pack furniture, you might do an online instructional video of how to put it together. That then gets monitored, you see how many times people are viewing it. And the goal there might be to increase dwell time on the site by 10% or by 5 minutes. Probably take longer than that to put flat pack furniture together, so you might want to set that a bit higher. But you get the idea. It's about adding value and not necessarily charging for it, perhaps. Another sort of type of goal is where digital can help is to speak. Now, this could be taking online surveys. It could be engaging with your customers in social media, but it's another way to understand and talk and use digital to help. So again, an example there might be to survey 50 customers every month. Another way that digital can help and be part of that sort of marketing sort of mix kind of thing is save. Now, it could be that you might want to save money on direct mail. You might do a lot of direct mail in the post. Now, you could say, okay, well, we're going to save costs by moving this online. We're going to use e-shots. We're going to send them out here. And, you could be reducing direct mail costs by 25%, could be one of the goals. And then the last part is to sizzle. So this is extending the brand and basically providing sort of new propositions and new experiences online. We're improving our brand awareness, and this might be through reviews, etc. But this is about making the brand, like it says, make it sizzle, make people interested. So there's 5 sort of areas there: sell, serve, speak, save, and sizzle. 5 areas where you can look at perhaps putting your, using digital to help the brand in its marketing. So how do we get there? This is all about sort of planning and the marketing mix. And this is the main sort of crux of the digital strategy. This is where all sort of the guts happen. Now there's a bit of theory coming up here, and I'll apply that theory to a real life example. But you've probably all heard of the old school 4 Ps. It's still relevant, but that's kind of moved on a little bit now. And what we tend to have is the 7 Ps. And I won't go through and talk through all of these. It's on the screen. You can see that. We can come back to, but it's what's probably more helpful is to look at a company and how they worked it. And what I'm going to use here as an example is a company called HubSpot. Some of you may have seen it or heard about it or seen a result come up when you've been searching about digital marketing, but they were founded in 2006. They have about 8,000, well, over 8,000 customers globally, 50 odd different countries, and they sell software. And basically, they looked at product and they said, okay, so how can we develop our products or services? They developed an integrated tool set for SEO, blogging, websites, emails, all that sort of data-led intelligence tools. So that's their product. How did they do their promotion? Their promotion were, a lot of the directors go out and speak at events, webinars. They have a lot of online useful guides, and those guides have been around, and they're quite sort of evergreen in the way that they've developed them. So they've managed to get a lot of SEO traction. So you can find them quite easily online. So that's the way they promote. A lot of PPC as well, and paid social media. Price, they're a subscription-based model, software as a service, and it all sort of looks at number of people in your database and charges you accordingly. A lot of email platforms do this as well, like MailChimp and Campaign Monitor. They all sort of charge on that kind of basis. And the place, well, it's online. They also have a network of partners in different countries, which sort of resellers and things. And they try and partner up with big old companies such as Facebook and Google. People, what we're looking at in people is who are our people, and where are the skills gaps perhaps of our own people. So they were looking at investment in online services. So they were training people on how to use how to use the different various tools that they give out. So they would train their people on that, which then also led to the process, because that meant that more sales staff could now get involved in the conversion. Once they'd had inquiries in, they can give it to more staff to then go and sell. And the physical evidence, well, that's about, for HubSpot, was that consistent branding across communication. So whether it be their e-shots that they've done, whether it's their website, whether it's when the directors are speaking at events and have banners behind them and things like that, it's all about consistent branding. So that covers sort of how we get there kind of thing. But how do we actually do all of this? This part is about the tactics and the actions that we take and the way that we can actually, the actual sort of physical doing. And the key here really is to plan. We have to go out and plan and make sure that we know what's happening and when it's happening. Now, this could be media schedules, it could be content calendars. It should also include resource allocation, who's doing it and when. And from a digital marketing perspective, in particular, this is quite sort of focused, I believe, on content. And content is an interesting beast as well. You've got to ensure that you have clear ideas and goals around planning, around content. And to do that, you need to know, you need to know your customers, which we've talked about earlier. Something else we've mentioned is not managing social media in isolation, integrating it, and ensure that you're measuring what's happening with the content. And again, we'll come on to the measurement bits in a bit. But content is, when it comes to your website and social media, content is so important. You may have heard the term content is king. Some people say, but I firmly believe that it still is. Without that content, without engaging content, people won't come and talk to you and get involved with you. Something I would say here is don't ignore the benefits. You may remember a moment ago I spoke about evergreen content. This is content that doesn't go out of date. If you can produce that based around your products and services, that's great, because that stays, that gains SEO traction over time, as long as it's relevant to your audience. But don't be over promotional in content. Quite often what we look at in terms of social media is something like the thirds rule, the third your own generated content, a third perhaps shared content from third parties, and then a third sales, so a third actually promoting your product. And always try and support content with some form of media spend. So when we look at social media, we talk about the fact that sort of organic content and organic posting is based around sort of servicing your current audience, and paid is about growing the audience in terms of that kind of area. But don't be afraid to test. Don't be afraid to go and try something with your content. And if it doesn't work, well, you learn from it. You know that that doesn't work and your audience isn't quite engaging with that. But it's all about planning. It's all about planning. And another sort of tactical move, and another thing that's quite useful in this area, especially if you're a location-based business, is Google My Business. Now, I don't know if some of you may have come across this, may have not, but generally this is, as you can see, this is this bit here. When you do a search for anything online, this is, sometimes you'll see this, not every time. It also depends if you're on mobile, desktop, as to the layout of it. But if there's one thing to take from this, if you're a location-based business, and it works for non-location based as well, but it's the power of Google My Business. It's a free tool, and it helps you basically create and manage your sort of Google listing. And it specifically looks, specifically works well with maps. But just to give you an idea of how important this can be, we work for commercial vehicles, Volkswagen commercial vehicles, and part of some of their centres, they are getting 50% more phone calls from their Google My Business listing than they are from their website. And that's because people can see it straight away. So it's really important to those sort of offline, online sort of grey areas where, you know, it goes from digital into the real world, so to speak. So the one thing I would say is, make sure, if you haven't, make sure you've claimed your business on Google. Have a look for that. And again, it's something that if you're not sure about things working with Google My Business, you can always email me or ask me any questions at the end, and I can help you with those things. But it's a really important, free, easy tool to use from a search engine point of view. And there are loads of tools and tactics and things that you can do, e-shots, etc. But I obviously can't cover all of those in today's seminar. So couple of things that we've looked at there: content and Google My Business. As I say, there are loads of different tactics and tools you can use and strategies. But how do you know it's working? And this is all about control or measurement. Digital marketing thrives on data, and no matter what type of site that you have, whether it's, you know, a massive, large e-commerce site, a personal website, or a site for small businesses, it's essential to understand how people interact with your site. And there are a number of metrics which we look at and which we use. And they generally fall into two sort of areas. One is vanity, and the other is sanity. Now, we have a little mantra specifically when we talk about pay-per-click and Google ads. And clicks are vanity, conversions are sanity. Now, what we mean by that is, it's great. Clicks, you know, you can have 1,000 people clicking through to your site. Wow, great. But if they're not actually doing what we want them to do, kind of pointless. So that's the conversion side of it. Conversions are sanity. If we have 1,000 clicks and 500 people are doing what we want them to do on the site, then that's good. That's something that we can feed back into the loop and understand and change or promote more. But if we've just got 1,000 clicks, we don't know what we're trying to do. Now, you may have heard this described slightly differently as vanity and value. And just to give you an idea of the different types of metrics there. So vanity, we're talking about web traffic, time on site, keyword rankings. Doesn't really mean anything. It's just something that we can sort of look good to others by saying, oh, we've got this many visitors, we have this many impressions or this many followers. Great, but what are they actually doing? And that's where the value metrics come in, and they're the important parts. So it could be its conversion rates, its customer acquisition costs, how much it's actually costing us to get those people onto the site or to actually do what we want them to do. So that's kind of an overall view of the metrics. But looking at what I'll do now is just take you through a couple of different sort of metrics platforms or metrics that you should be looking at depending on what platforms you're using. Again, I can't go through all of them because we'd be here till Wednesday basically. So we'll start with just have a quick look at social media, and in particular look at Facebook. And our Facebook Insights is something that if you're using Facebook, you should be using. You should be sort of looking at and checking. And the reason why Facebook is quite good is it really breaks the audience down for you. You can really understand the demographics of the people that engage with your content, with your site, with your products, with your services, with your brand. And it allows you to target them quite clearly in the paid activity that you do. So it allows you to target this audience that you find, that you understand, that you test with, and really quite clearly. So if you're doing anything on Facebook, make sure that you have a look at Insights and understand what it's telling you. Again, questions and things we can help. Now you've probably all, in terms of your website, you've probably all come across Google Analytics and had a look at it. It's great, it's free, but again, you need to understand what's going on the site. And coming back to those the vanity and value metrics, a lot of people tend to sort of stop on the vanity ones. And if we start to look at the value, how do we do that? And it's not the goals in the previous sense of goals, but this is analytic goals. Now, within Google, you can set these goals up that are triggered by certain things. Now, it might be somebody filling in a form, it might be an online purchase. But make sure that you have these set up, because this gives you something to measure against, something to actually understand if things are working or not. Not having any goals doesn't make any sense, because you were just looking at vanity things then. So it might, you can see here on the screen, we've got 4,000 goal completions. There's no goal value because this particular site doesn't have any online purchases. But this is a dealership, car dealership site. You can see they're part of obviously what they would want to be is they would want to know people are looking at their used cars. That would be one of their goals, to get people to a used car page to view it, to get them interested. So that's set as a goal, and we can then start to measure against that. Another thing with Google Analytics, which you may or may not have come across, are UTM codes. Now, this helps you sort of compartmentalize some of your analytics and some of the results that you're getting through. Now, what these do is, you can see there's the blue URL there is somewhere where you can go to generate these codes, but underneath is an example of one, and the UTM part of it is what's highlighted in green. Now, what that allows us to do is, when we're doing e-shots, or perhaps we're posting on social media, we're advertising on a partner site or a third-party area, we can put certain information in this green area here, which then when it comes through to Google Analytics, we can start to understand what those particular adverts or emails did for us. And you can see on this screen where we've got the campaign, you see old for new sale, 100 hours. You can see the different levels of activity that those campaigns brought. And you can see the different, you can also excuse me, see the source and medium. So think about setting goals in analytics. Another thing to look at are events. Now, events are user interactions with content, basically, and they can be measured independently from a web page or a screen load, which is what happens, when you visit a site, page loads, it tells analytics that's what we get most of the data from. What we can also do is look at events. So this could be video views, it could be downloads, link clicks, all these kind of things. And events then can go on to make goals, but events also help you understand how people are interacting with your site. So this feeds back into that measuring and understanding if the channel's working for us. Are people reading this? Are people reading this content? Are people watching these videos? How long are they watching them for? These are the kind of things we should be measuring and looking at. And this is a great tool to do it with. Now, some of these things that we set up for events sometimes need a bit of developer time on the site, but there is something around nowadays that can reduce that developer time needed, and that's something called Google Tag Manager. Something else to look out for and understand. Now, you all may not want to get deeply into this because there is a little bit of coding involved sometimes, but basically tags are little snippets of code that hang behind things on a website, and when, for example, you click a video, this little bit of code is fired and off it goes. Now what Tag Manager does is it allows us as marketeers, without needing the developers, to start to tag things on our site and put these little snippets of code and allow it to then pull information through to analytics. So it just makes things a little easier for ourselves without necessarily needing so much developer input. You do need a little bit of developer input at the start to set it up, but again, it's just a little bit of code that sits at the top of the page, just like the analytics code. So without wanting to get too technical, but that's a great tool if you have the time to understand it, and also if you've got somebody that's sort of very analytically minded and enjoys that, that's something for them to look at. Now, we mentioned other sort of to talk about some of the analytics to look at is your email analytics. If you're sending out e-shots, then you should be measuring the success of those. And one of the reasons why I put this in is, again, coming back to that vanity and value sort of idea. Opens would be a good measure of a vanity metric for me on emails, mainly because you can't trust them, because we all, or not we all, but there's a lot of reading pains on Outlook and things nowadays. So sometimes that's measured as an open, sometimes it's not. So the key for me on email analytics is actual clicks on a link, clicks on something, which is why when we do an email, we should always make sure that there's some sort of actionable link in there, or actionable process that we want the person that's ready to go through. So we know that email's working and working for us. So there's a few sort of tools and ways to measure there to look at and understand. And we mentioned earlier about phone calls, but what about the sort of offline actions? So what about location visits and telephone calls? Location visits now, depending on what level of sort of interaction you're having with Google, you can now see the people that have perhaps looked at one of your adverts, clicked on one of your Google ads, gone onto your site, and have then visited your store. Google can now tell you that if that person has a Google account and then is logged into it on their phone. So there's a couple of ifs and buts about it, but it's an interesting development in that, especially for somebody like a car showroom where they've got some PPC going, if they've put those ads out, people have clicked on, looked at it, and then they've gone in, people have gone into the store, we can see that actually, yeah, it's having an effect on store visits. And the other side of this is telephone calls. If you're not measuring your calls, I would suggest it's a good idea. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's quite cheap now, but it allows you to almost close that loop from online to offline if people start to phone you. And there's clever ways that we use that. We have a metrics platform, and one of the things that we do with ads is that we put another little bit of code on the URL at the back of a PPC ad, for example. People click on that, they go through to your site, and it changes the phone number ever so slightly to a trackable one, which then allows you if somebody phones you, you can say, okay, well, that PPC advert, we spent £1,000 on all of those ads. We had 700 clicks, and actually we had 250 phone calls from them as well, which led to X number of sales. So there's ways of measuring telephone calls in conjunction with your sort of online activity. So that's offline. So it's been a kind of a whirlwind tour of sort of strategy, understanding where you are, what you're doing, some of the tactics that you can employ, how to measure. And so just as a quick summary, if there's something to sort of understand, I guess it's this kind of framework, and this is what I've sort of gone through today in half an hour, which is probably not long enough to go through it all properly, but you get an idea, and hopefully it's piqued your interest in some of the areas. So it's about understanding where you are, your situation analysis. It's generating some objectives, some goals. It's then deciding who, where and when and what. It's then the going and doing and planning. It's then the control and understanding, and it's back round, and it's feeding it all back round. So that's the kind of way that we want to work. So those 5 key points really then are: understand where you are, audit, understand what you're trying to achieve, devise your strategy, make smart objectives, which then become your KPIs, go out and do it. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just do it. And then measure using the appropriate sort of systems, analytics or whatever. And just to close off and bring it back around, so those figures, they are actually a number of Google searches. And when you look at those and you realize that Google's not the only search engine in the way people are finding information, people are going straight to Facebook sometimes, doing a search on TikTok even, it makes you understand why it's important to be out there and understanding what's going on and how you can get your digital channels working for you. So hopefully that's given you a bit of interest, and you've enjoyed that and got something from it. I will now stop sharing my screen and go back, and I'm thinking Samantha might be there as well.
Yeah, hi James, thank you for that. Wow, that was so interesting. I've just said to one of the girls that we work with in the marketing team, you don't believe how much is so behind, how thought out it is to ensure when you're doing your marketing, everything that you take on board. Just the thought process behind it. I've been making notes all the way through that. I just thought, really interesting. And I hope everybody who's joined into the webinar today have thought the same as well. They found it useful, interesting, and obviously informative today. James confirmed we can share the slides. Is that correct, James? We can share your slides?
Fine. Absolutely, yeah. Do you want me to just pick up on a point made in the
yes,
comments?
If you could on that PPC, that would be great.
Yeah, I've just the PPC, usually pay-per-click, absolutely, it's Google Ads. And then I saw that Anna mentioned the importance of strong content. Absolutely agree. One thing I would say about PPC is I think the landing page is absolutely key to a successful PPC campaign. If you get that right, it has such a massive difference to your, but actually makes a big difference to the success of it. It makes a difference to what you end up paying for the adverts as well, because Google looks at the content on the landing page and says, is that relevant to the ad? Then it gives you a better quality score, and the way they work out how much you pay, that means it helps reduce that as well. So yeah, good comment, Anna, the importance of strong content and an important landing page.
Oh, and I think, James, if you've got time, there's another question just popped from Catherine.
Yes, you mentioned the one business that had a lot of calls from Google My Business compared with their website. Can you explain how this was tracked? Yeah, so basically what we did was when on the PPC campaign that we did for them, Google My Business, on Google My Business, you can set different phone numbers within your business. There's some settings that you go into. So what we have is we have 2 or 3 different numbers for that business, and on their Google My Business info panel, we make sure that we have a trackable number there that's displayed. So the business will have, so when people call from that number, we know how many people have called. So that business effectively has a default number on their website that if somebody just goes to direct, they'll get. If they Googled it and found it on Google My Business, they'd see it there. They'd see a different one there. Now, people sometimes say, oh, shouldn't we have the same phone number? Yes, you can, but also Google now realize that people are wanting to track and therefore have different numbers. So they're taking that into account now, and it's not such a minus to have a different number everywhere. So hopefully I did answer that, and I went and rambled a little bit more, but yeah, basically it was a trackable number. Of course, it's really how small. I guess everybody can see the question there. I think it depends, because it depends what you do. Because if you're, for example, if you're selling online, then your website is absolutely business critical. So the investment in the website for that person would be completely different to the investment of somebody that is manufacturing steel girders, for example. So it's quite a difficult question to answer that one. And I would love to maybe talk to you outside of here and find out what you do and the kind of return that we can look at. Or it comes down to the return on investment. Basically, it comes down to the return. If you could sell £400,000 worth off a £10,000 investment in PPC, then it's probably worth it. But it's very difficult to answer that, because it depends on the product and it depends on that whole marketing mix, really. But as I say, Laura, if you want to contact me afterwards, absolutely, and we can go through it.
Excellent. So I think I can see the girls was obviously typing away to see if there are a few more questions that might be coming through. Yes. So Catherine, what happens? I'll just reiterate. We've recorded the video. We've recorded the webinar today. So what will happen then, once we've had that edited and tidied up, we will share that all with you all via the Chamber's YouTube channel. So we'll send you the link out. As James has said, we'll be sharing these slides as well. So that'll all come out in an email to you all over the next couple of days. So thank you for that. I think Jeff has just a quick question. What about SEO?
Yeah, I mean, SEO is obviously another tool to be used as part of that sort of that going out and doing part. SEO is a big part of what you do with your website and how to do it. There are a number of sort of subjects within SEO as well. So, things like on page and off page. There's technical SEO as well. So there are link building, et cetera. There's SEO is a massive subject. It is a tool that you can use. Again, if it's something that you're particularly feel that you want to get involved or understand more about or want some advice on, then again, drop me an email afterwards.
That's lovely. So thanks, James. Thank you, everybody who's dialed in and to the webinar today. Thank you for the questions. I think everybody, some relevant questions, some great questions. As we said, we'll share the slides with everybody following this. My details are on the screen for you now. Please, anything you want to find out, any other events or any other webinars that are coming up, make your way to the Greater Birmingham website. We've got an events page, and across all our divisions, there are events and webinars that are taking place, and it's free for you all to register. And I think, that's everything from us. So thank you from myself, thank you from James, thank you from my team in the background, and thank you from Solihull Chamber of Chambers of Commerce. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.